I knew the day was going to be a dumpster fire when the main server room hummed a low B flat instead of its usual C. You spend 20 years listening to cooling fans and hard drives, and you start to hear the music of catastrophe before the first support ticket hits the help desk. I was wrist deep in a rack enclosure, cable ties in my teeth, smelling of ozone when the security door banged open. It was not a respectful knock. It was the entitled slam of a pair of designer loafers that cost more than my first car. Enter Bradley, the owner's 30-year-old son, a man whose personality was defined by cryptocurrency buzzwords and a receding hairline. Trailing behind him, clinging to his arm like a decorative barnacle, was his fiancée, Chloe. She was wearing beige linen and holding an iced matcha latte like a relic. "Walter," Bradley barked. "We need to talk. Right now." I unspooled myself from the server rack, dusting off the gray lint. I did not rush. Over 2 decades in IT taught me that panic is only for people without backups. I looked at my watch. It was 10:14 in the morning. My caffeine levels were low, and my patience was non-existent. "Morning, Bradley," I said. "Unless the building is on fire or your father decided to upgrade us off Windows 7, I am busy. The authentication bridge is acting up." Bradley waved his hand. "Forget the bridge," he said. "This is about vision, synergy, and the aesthetic of the modern workplace." He gestured around my office, my sanctuary. It was a windowless box filled with blinking green lights, pretzel bags, and diagnostic monitors. But it was mine, the nerve center of Garrison HVAC. "Chloe is joining us as our vibe curator," Bradley announced. "She needs a creative space that reflects clarity." "This office is the only logical choice. Vibe curator," I repeated. "Is that a position, or did we just run out of ways to waste money?" "It is crucial for employee morale," Chloe piped up, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "And this room has the best feng shui. The lack of windows grounds the energy. But these loud, buzzing boxes have to go. They disrupt my creative aura." She pointed at the main server stack running the company payroll, logistics database, warehouse inventory, and client portal. I laughed. "Those buzzing boxes are the reason your boyfriend can afford those loafers, sweetie," I said. "You unplug those, and the company stops existing in 4 seconds. We do not ship units, we do not bill clients, and we do not pay our technicians." Bradley stepped forward, puffing up his chest. "That is exactly the kind of negative dinosaur attitude I am talking about, Walter. You are a relic. You are blocking the creative flow of this organization. We need fresh energy here. We need digital nomads, people who understand the cloud and modern workflows." "I built the cloud you are currently using," I replied, my eyes narrowing. "I was configuring virtual private networks and firewall policies while you were still failing Algebra 2. "That is why this company survived this long," Bradley smirked, a look of pure, unearned arrogance crossing his face. "Yes, well, that is why this is going to be incredibly easy. I am letting you go, effective immediately. We are restructuring the department. Chloe needs this office cleared out by noon for her meditation alignment. Pack your things and vacate the premises." The silence that followed was heavy and thick. I looked at him, really looked at him. I saw the arrogance of a young man who had never had to reboot a crashed database router at 3 in the morning. I saw the stupidity of a child playing with a loaded gun, thinking it was a water pistol. And then a strange, beautiful calm washed over me. "You are firing me," I said, making sure my voice was steady. "Is this termination for cause, or are you just eager to turn a critical server room into a yoga studio?" "Restructuring," Bradley said. "We are pivoting to an external managed service provider. They are cheaper, faster, and they do not talk back. Now, pack up." I did not scream. I did not throw a monitor. I did not cry. The loudest scream in IT is always total silence. "Okay," I said. Bradley blinked, surprised. Chloe stopped chewing on her paper straw. They had been expecting a massive fight. They wanted the drama to justify their cruelty. "Okay?" Bradley asked, his voice tinged with suspicion. "You are the boss." I shrugged. I reached over to my desk, picked up my satchel, and swept my personal effects into it. I grabbed the framed photograph of my golden retriever, Buster, my stress toy, and a pack of mints. "If you want me gone, I am gone. I assume human resources will mail my final check." "Security will escort you out," Bradley stammered, clearly thrown off by my lack of resistance. "No need," I said. "I know the way out. I installed the biometric badge readers on the doors, remember?" I walked past them, catching a whiff of Chloe's cloying floral perfume. At the doorway, I paused and looked back at the blinking rack. "One piece of advice, Bradley," I said. "Do not touch the blue cables, or the red ones. Actually, just do not touch anything at all. Good luck with the vibe." I walked out into the hallway. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Accounting and logistics employees looked up from their desks. They saw me walking out with my satchel. They saw the set of my jaw. They knew I did not say goodbye, and they knew what that meant. I walked straight to the elevator, pressed the button, and waited. Bradley thought he was cleaning house, but he had no idea he had just pulled the pin on a security grenade. The office was not the room. The office was me, and I was leaving the building. The elevator doors slid shut, sealing me off from the chaos of the third floor. I watched the indicator lights tick down. 3, 2, 1, lobby. The cool autumn air outside smelled of dry leaves and absolute freedom. I walked across the concrete parking lot to my 2014 Subaru Outback, threw my satchel onto the passenger seat, and sat behind the wheel. I did not start the engine. Instead, I pulled my smartphone from my pocket, propped it up against a half-empty cup of convenience store coffee on the dashboard, and opened the stopwatch app. I tapped the screen. The numbers began to climb. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Most people think systems administration is about fixing paper jams or resetting passwords for managers who cannot remember their wedding anniversary. They do not see the invisible wires, the delicate lattice of logic, permissions, and scripts that keeps a multi-million-dollar enterprise from dissolving into digital dust. Bradley Garrison certainly did not see it. He saw a room full of blinking metal boxes that he could paint sage green for his fiancée's social media content. He did not know about the disaster that had occurred 8 months ago. 8 months ago, the company had been hit by a devastating ransomware attack that nearly wiped our entire client history. It was a catastrophe. The previous administrator, a country club friend of Bradley, had left the main administrator password as password 123. The owner, Lawrence Garrison, had practically begged me on his knees to save the business. I spent 3 straight weeks living in that server room, sleeping on a folding cot, eating stale pretzels, and rebuilding the network from scratch. When I was done, I had built a custom authentication engine. I called it Cerberus. It was a paranoid, aggressive, trust-no-one system. And because I had been burned by corporate executives before, I had a very specific clause inserted into my contract for that rebuild. It was a contract that Lawrence Garrison signed in a panic, and one that Bradley had clearly never read. The contract was currently sitting in a fireproof lockbox in my basement. I watched the stopwatch tick past 4 minutes. By now, Bradley was probably moving Chloe's designer yoga mats into my old office. He was probably unplugging cables that did not match her aesthetic. What he did not know was that the Cerberus system was programmed to poll the network every 15 minutes. It checked for a specific, encrypted security token tied directly to my active administrative session. If that token disappeared, or if my session was terminated without the proper multi-stage offboarding sequence, Cerberus assumed the worst. It assumed a hostile, physical breach, or that the administrator had been compromised. And Cerberus did not negotiate. My termination in the database would trigger this immediately. The moment Bradley called human resources to report my firing, their entry in the employee database would automatically flip my status to inactive. I had integrated the payroll database directly into the security framework. If the active admin's payroll status became inactive without a 30-day transition protocol, Cerberus initiated a level 5 lockdown. At exactly 15 minutes on my stopwatch, the screen of my phone remained silent, but I knew what was happening inside the building. The network was severing its own external connections to protect our client data. It was shutting down the internet gateway, locking down the internal database tables, and cutting off the database interfaces. 20 minutes. The silence in the parking lot was beautiful. I took a deep breath, enjoying the quiet. I knew the storm was about to break. Through the windshield, I looked up at the third-floor windows of the office building. I could see the silhouette of Bradley pacing back and forth near the window blinds. He was probably trying to figure out why his laptop had suddenly lost connection to the internet. 22 minutes. My phone screen lit up. The ringtone was not my standard tone. It was the high-priority emergency alarm I had assigned to the office trunk line. The caller identification displayed Bradley's name. I let it ring. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. I did not answer. I wanted the panic to marinate. I wanted him to fully appreciate the depth of the hole he had just dug for himself. On the 5th ring, I finally slid the bar to answer, placed the phone on speaker, and set it back on the dashboard. I did not say a word. I just waited for the noise. "Walter!" Bradley shrieked. It was not a professional tone. It was the primal, high-pitched scream of a man who had just looked into the abyss and realized the abyss was looking back at him with a grin. "Walter, what did you do to the network? Why is everything down?" "I am no longer an employee of Garrison HVAC, Bradley," I said, my voice smooth and relaxed. "Please direct all technical inquiries to the help desk portal." "Oh, wait, I forgot. You outsourced the help desk last month to save $40 a week. The screens," he yelled, his voice cracking again. All the computer screens in the office just turned solid red. There is a giant graphic of an eye on them. The server room door locked itself, and the wall panel is asking for a Retina scan. Why is it asking for my eye? I leaned back against the headrest, closing my eyes. "Ah, the biometric scanner," I murmured. "Yes, that is the advanced security protocol I installed after the ransomware attack. Your father was very insistent that we secure our physical servers against unauthorized access. I guess the system is just doing its job." "I cannot log in," Bradley screamed over the phone. "Chloe cannot log in. She was trying to upload her design portfolio to Pinterest, and the machine completely locked her out. The printers are spitting out blank sheets of red paper. Fix it." "Right now, I cannot do that, Bradley," I replied. "You fired me, remember? I am currently an unemployed civilian sitting in a Subaru. If I were to access those servers remotely without authorization, I would be violating federal law. I have no intention of going to prison just because your fiancé wants better energy in the server room." The silence on the other end of the line lasted for several seconds, broken only by the sound of muffled panic and distant alarms echoing through the office speakers. I could hear Beatrice from accounting yelling in the background about payroll files, and Gordon from logistics shouting about warehouse shipping manifests. "You need to come back up here and unlock this system," Bradley ordered, trying to inject some steel into his shaky voice. "I will write you a temporary pass." "It does not work that way, Bradley," I explained patiently, as if talking to a toddler. "The system has entered what we call fortress mode. When the primary administrator is terminated without the proper cryptographic handover keys, Cerberus assumes the company is under a cyber attack or a hostile physical takeover. It immediately locks down the database, the local email servers, the warehouse inventory controls, and the electronic magnetic door locks." "The door locks?" Bradley's voice dropped a full octave. The anger was rapidly being replaced by genuine fear. "What do you mean, the door locks?" "The magnetic locks on the main warehouse loading docks," I said. "They are designed to fail safe to a locked position during a security event to prevent inventory theft." "Are the warehouse workers okay? It might get a little stuffy in there since the main ventilation blowers are tied to the same auxiliary network switch." "I am sure they will be fine for a few hours. You locked the warehouse crew inside?" Bradley gasped. "I did not lock anyone anywhere, Bradley," I corrected him. "You did. You terminated the administrator session while the system was active. You fired the pilot mid-flight. The plane is just following its emergency programming to crash safely." In the background, I heard Chloe's voice whining. "Bradley, my phone won't connect to the local wireless network, and the espresso machine stopped working. Is this because of the negative vibes from that old man?" I had to suppress a chuckle. The office espresso machine was internet-enabled, and I had placed it on the same network segment as the printers for convenience. Cerberus had shut down that port as well. No internet, no corporate database, no coffee, and no peace. "Walter," Bradley says, his voice dropping to a low, desperate hiss, "you are going to come back up here, scan your eye, and unlock this system right now, or I am calling the local authorities." "Go ahead and call them," I challenged him. "I would love to explain to a sheriff's deputy why you shut down a multi-million-dollar HVAC supply business because your girlfriend wanted to do yoga in the server room. But before you make that call, you might want to look at the main diagnostic monitor again. Is there a countdown timer visible?" I heard the sound of paper rustling and Bradley scrambling across the hallway. "Yes," he whispered, his voice trembling. It says 74 minutes remaining. What is that? That is the automatic data purge safeguard, I said. If a verified biometric scan from the authorized administrator is not provided within 75 minutes of a lockdown event, the system assumes the physical hardware is being stolen by hostile actors. It initiates a cryptographic shredding process. It does not just delete the files, Bradley. It overwrites every hard drive with 07 times. It turns your entire client database, your accounts receivable, and your father's proprietary designs into digital dust. You are lying, Bradley stammered. You would not do that. Am I? I asked. You know how paranoid your father was after the last hack. He told me to ensure our intellectual property could never be stolen, no matter what. I just wrote the code to enforce his wishes. You have 73 minutes left. How do I stop it? Bradley pleaded. You cannot, I said. Only my Retina can bypass the lock. And since my employment status is inactive, my biometric data is currently unauthorized by the security policy. Unless I am officially reinstated in the system, the countdown will continue. I am going to drive down the road and get some lunch. I have a sudden craving for a sandwich. Wait, Bradley shouted, but I did not let him finish. I hung up the phone, I started the Outback, put it in drive, and drove across the street to a shopping center parking lot. I parked near a small diner and watched the office building from a distance. Within 10 minutes, my phone began to buzz again. It was not Bradley, it was Beatrice from accounting. I let it go to voicemail. Then Gordon from logistics called. I let it go to voicemail as well. They were beginning to realize the severity of the situation. A few minutes later, an unknown number appeared on my screen. I answered it. Hello? I said. Is this Walter? A young, nervous voice asked. This is Oliver from the local computer support service. A guy named Bradley Garrison called us for an emergency network unlock at the HVAC headquarters. I sighed. Bradley had actually called a residential computer repair service to crack a customized enterprise encryption system. Oliver, I said, listen to me very carefully. Are you standing in front of a rack of servers running a custom operating system with security modules enabled? Yes, Oliver said. It is asking for a Retina scan. And there is a red screen with a countdown. Oliver, do not touch the keyboard. I warned him. Do not attempt to bypass the boot sequence with a USB drive. If you trigger 3 failed authentication attempts, the system will flag it as a hostile intrusion. Under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, 18 U.S.C., Section 1030, and the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, 17 U.S.C., Section 1201, attempting to bypass access controls on a commercial network without the express permission of the registered administrator is a federal crime. I am the registered administrator. Furthermore, if you trigger a security override, the automated fire suppression system might discharge gas. You like breathing, do you not? I do. Oliver squeaked. Then pack up your tools, charge them for the service call, and walk out of that building immediately. Okay. Thank you, Walter, he said, and the line went dead. My phone pinged with a text message from Bradley. Stop sabotaging my business. I am calling our legal team. I texted back a simple message. Read the contract your father signed. Clause 8.1. You have 42 minutes left before the cryptographic keys are purged. Tick-tock. I put my phone down, put the car in gear, and drove away from the shopping center. I was heading to the one place I knew Lawrence Garrison would be on a Friday morning, the Rolling Hills Country Club. Lawrence was a tough, self-made man who had built Garrison HVAC from a small garage operation into a regional powerhouse. He respected hard work, but he had a massive blind spot when it came to his son. He wanted Bradley to succeed, but he knew deep down that the boy was incompetent. I parked my Subaru in the gravel lot of the country club, walked into the clubhouse, and took a seat at the bar. The bartender, a quiet older gentleman named Max, poured me a glass of unsweetened iced tea. I watched the 18th green through the large glass window. At exactly 12:30, I saw Lawrence Garrison walking off the green, looking tired and slightly sunburnt. He walked into the clubhouse, spotted me sitting at the bar, and frowned in confusion. "Walter?" he asked, walking over. "What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be at the office? It is Friday, and we have a major shipment of copper tubing scheduled for delivery today." I turned on my stool and offered him a calm smile. "Hello, Lawrence," I said. "I actually have a lot of free time now. Bradley fired me this morning at 10:15. He wanted to turn the server room into a meditation lounge for his fiancée. Lawrence froze. The color drained from his face, leaving only the red of his sunburn. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and turned it on. The moment the screen lit up, it began to vibrate uncontrollably with missed calls and messages. He opened a voicemail from Beatrice in accounting. She explained that the payroll batch had failed to process because the system was locked down, and the technicians were threatening to walk off the job if they were not paid by tomorrow. She added that the printers were locked as well, making manual checks impossible. He then opened a message from Gordon in logistics. Gordon reported that the warehouse gates were locked tight, trapping the crew inside. 3 semi-trucks loaded with $240,000 worth of copper tubing were idling on the highway, blocking traffic, and the police were issuing heavy fines. Lawrence sat down on the bar stool next to me, looking defeated. He signaled Max for a double scotch, neat. He drank it in one long swallow, then turned to look at me. "What did that idiot son of mine do?" Lawrence whispered, his voice shaking with anger. I explained the situation clearly. Bradley terminated my session without initiating the 30-day transition protocol we agreed upon in my contract, I said. The Cerberus security system detected a hostile removal of the administrator and locked down the network. "Can you unlock it?" Lawrence asked. "Only with my biometric scan," I replied. "And since I am no longer an employee, my access is restricted. If we do not unlock the system within the next 28 minutes, the local database keys will be destroyed by the automated security purge. If that happens, you are looking at a complete network rebuild. It will take 3 weeks of total downtime, thousands of dollars in regulatory fines for data loss, and potential lawsuits from the shipping unions." Lawrence's phone rang. It was Bradley. Lawrence answered it and put it on speaker. "Dad, thank God," Bradley cried. "The building is in total chaos. The fire alarms are buzzing, and the warehouse guys are pounding on the doors. Tiffany is crying in the bathroom because the air conditioning stopped. It is a system glitch. We need to hire a hacker." "Bradley," Lawrence said, his voice dangerously low. "Shut your mouth. Is Walter with you?" Bradley squeaked. "He is," Lawrence growled. "And he tells me you fired him this morning because Chloe wanted a yoga space." "It was a strategic decision, Dad," Bradley stammered. "We are restructuring." "You idiot!" Lawrence roared, slamming his empty glass onto the wooden bar. "Your strategic decision has cost this company $50,000 in lost shipping fees and local traffic fines in less than 3 hours. You locked our warehouse staff inside a hot building, violating safety regulations. You halted payroll for 50 technicians. You are to step away from the computer immediately. Do you understand? Do not touch a single machine. Sit in the corner. If you touch so much as a paperclip, I will remove you from the family business permanently." "Yes, sir," Bradley whispered. Lawrence hung up the phone. He turned to me, his shoulders slumped. "Okay, Walter, you win. I will hire you back right now. I will give you a 15% salary increase and a larger office on the second floor. Just come back and save the network." I shook my head slowly. "No, Lawrence," I said. "I do not want my old job back. I am 54 years old, and I am tired of being treated like a disposable line item by your son. If I return, I am not returning as an employee." "What do you want then?" Lawrence asked. "I want to be hired as an independent consultant under a 12-month, non-revocable agreement," I said, pulling a notebook from my satchel. "My rate will be $380 per hour, with a monthly retainer of $12,000. I will report directly to you, and Bradley will have zero authority over my department. He will not speak to me, email me, or enter my workspace. If he has a technical issue, he will submit a support ticket like everyone else." Lawrence stared at me for a long moment, calculating the cost. He looked at his watch. We had less than 20 minutes left before the database keys were purged. "You are holding a gun to my head, Walter," he said. "No, Lawrence," I replied. "Bradley put the gun to your head. I am just the only person who knows how to engage the safety lock." Lawrence let out a long sigh, took a pen from his pocket, and reached for a paper napkin from the bar dispenser. "Write it down," he said. "We will have our legal counsel draft the official contract on Monday, but this signed agreement is binding today." I wrote out the terms of the consulting agreement clearly on the napkin. Lawrence read it over. signed his name at the bottom, and handed it back to me. "Let's go," he said. We arrived at the Garrison HVAC headquarters 20 minutes later. The scene was as chaotic as I had anticipated. A long line of delivery trucks and worker vehicles stretched down the access road. Drivers were standing near their vehicles, shouting and gesturing angrily. The main steel security gate was shut tight, blocking the entrance. I rolled down the window of my Subaru as we approached the gate intercom system. "Identify." The synthesized voice of the Cerberus security module demanded through the speaker. I leaned out toward the microphone. "Administrative override," I said clearly. "Voice verification. Alpha Zulu Tango 9. There was a brief pause as the security system processed the audio frequency and matched it against my voice pattern. "Identity confirmed," the system replied. "Welcome back, Administrator." The heavy steel gates groaned and began to slide open. I drove through the entrance, with Lawrence's luxury vehicle following closely behind. Walking into the main lobby was like entering a library during a minor riot. The emergency lights were pulsing a slow, rhythmic red, casting a dramatic glow over the confused employees gathered in the hallways. No one was working because no one had access to their terminals. When they saw me walking in next to the owner, the anxious chatter stopped instantly. A quiet whisper rippled through the room. "Walter is back." We took the elevator to the third floor and walked down the hall to the main server room. The door was open. Bradley was sitting in the corner of the hallway, looking pale and disheveled. Chloe was sitting on a plastic chair. Nearby, clutching her matcha latte and staring at the floor, when Bradley saw Lawrence, he flinched and looked away. I walked into the server room. It was a mess. Bradley had already moved a decorative tapestry and some potted plants into the space. The tapestry was draped directly over the main server rack, blocking the cooling intake vents. I ripped the tapestry off the metal frame and threw it into the corner. "That is a major fire hazard," I said to Bradley, who was watching from the doorway. "Get these things out of my workspace immediately." I sat down in the administrator's chair, spun around to face the main console, and looked at the diagnostic monitor. The red warning screen was still active. The countdown timer read 6 minutes and 12 seconds. "Can you stop it?" Lawrence asked, standing behind me. I did not answer. I focused on the keyboard. I typed the administrator override commands, clearing the database lock flags. "Pseudo-override human resources status force active." I entered. The system paused, then prompted for the final authorization key. I typed the secret 30-character phrase I had hard-coded into the security kernel. "The best vibe is uptime." I pressed the enter key. The red emergency lights in the room stopped flashing and turned a steady, cool blue. The cooling fans in the server rack hummed as they spun up to full speed. On the screen, the countdown timer disappeared, replaced by the green system status indicator. The network was online. The magnetic locks on the warehouse doors released with a loud click, allowing the workers to open the bays and begin unloading the idling trucks. The payroll portal cleared, and Beatrice was able to authorize the direct deposit file. The office returned to its normal busy rhythm. Lawrence walked out into the hallway, grabbed Bradley by the shoulder, and pointed toward the elevator. "You are on administrative leave from the executive offices, Bradley," Lawrence said. "Starting Monday morning, you will report to Gordon in the warehouse. You will be working the loading dock for the next 6 months to learn how this business actually operates. If you complain, you are fired permanently." Bradley looked at his father in shock, but he did not dare to argue. He grabbed his coat, signaled Chloe, and they walked toward the elevator. I turned back to my monitors and began remapping the network routing tables that Bradley had disrupted. I was no longer just the guy in the faded cardigan who fixed printers. I was now an independent consultant reporting directly to the owner, with my future financially secured. At 5 in the evening, I finished my work, saved the system logs, and prepared to leave. The servers were humming a perfect, steady C major. I walked out of the building and stepped into the cool evening air. As I drove toward the main exit, I saw Bradley's red convertible parked on the shoulder of the road. He was sitting in the driver's seat alone, looking small and defeated. Chloe's vehicle was nowhere to be seen. I slowed down as I passed him and rolled down my window. Bradley looked up, his eyes narrow and angry. "You ruined my life," he muttered. "I will get you back for this." I did not do anything, Bradley, I said, offering him a mint from my pocket. I just let you press the buttons you were so eager to push. You rigged the system, he hissed. The system was designed to protect the business, I replied. By the way, I noticed you were trying to download the company's client database to your personal tablet from the parking lot earlier. Since you are on administrative leave, that device was flagged as unauthorized. The system automatically sent a remote factory reset command to protect our intellectual property. In Bradley's lap, the screen of his tablet suddenly flashed bright white, then went completely dark as it began the reset process. He let out a shriek of frustration and slammed his hands against the steering wheel. Good luck on the loading dock, Bradley, I said. I rolled up the window and drove away. I went home to my quiet apartment, poured myself a glass of peaty single malt scotch, and sat in my recliner. My golden retriever, Buster, lay down at my feet. I opened my personal computer, ate a spicy pickle, and relaxed. The network was secure, the owner's son was under control, and my business was thriving. I was just the systems administrator, but in the digital age, the person who holds the keys holds the power. I smiled and took a sip of my drink, listening to the quiet hum of a system running perfectly.